All right, so you guys just have me this week. Ashley's attending to some business I'll talk about in just a second, but I want you guys to know that I have a story for you, a life lesson. Hopefully, I can share some things that'll prevent you guys future issues, but I'm always looking for anytime there's something good or usually if it's something troublesome or bad that happens, I'm always looking for what are the lessons in it? What are the lessons? How can I apply them to what I do, chiropractic and vitality, the business of helping people get healthy, but also like, what is my takeaway? What's my takeaway from my life? So, without going any further, I'm going to share with you guys a story. The other day, I was washing my son plays soccer. I don't think he's washed his shoes all season. And so his shoes smelt like, not to be too graphic, but it smelled like a cat peed in them. And then he just kept playing soccer in them. I don't know what it is about teenage boys, and my wife would probably get mad at me for making my son sound, anyway right now, but it's just teenage boys in general. There's something about that sweat when they're playing sports and, starting to create some testosterone, that those shoes were the worst smelling thing I think I've smelled in a long time. So I was not going to deal with it anymore. So I threw them in a laundry tub. It was at night. Everyone was in bed. And I threw his shoes in a laundry tub and put some baking soda, some vinegar in there. I was just going to let them soak overnight. Turned on the laundry tub. It was filling up. And it was, it's a big laundry tub. So it was going to take a while. And I realized, oh, shoot, I could help out and help Ashley in the morning I'll make the kids some food for lunch tomorrow right now that she could just warm up, reheat. So I was making some food and I forgot about the laundry tub. Went to bed at about 9:30, 9:45 at night. And long story short, I woke up at 6 a.m. to Ashley screaming, going, what happened in the laundry room? The laundry tub had been filling up and overflowing for whatever that is, 13, 14 hours, destroyed about 5 rooms in the house, came down to the basement, drywall falling through the ceiling, just craziness. So it was traumatic. And, you wake up and you just see something like that. And just so you guys know, we moved into our house this year. So everything was 11 months old. And, when you're building something, you're excited, and all the excitement just to watch something destroyed. It was I want to say it was heartbreaking. I think that's what I was feeling. I'm trying to kind of process the emotions, but there was an immediate feeling, and I don't know if this is just the way I'm wired or if it's part of being an entrepreneur or if it's just reality, but immediately I had this sense of, I can't change it. It's already happened. Can't change it. There's nothing I can do. And the damage is done. And thank God for insurance. I'll highly recommend not only you guys make sure you have good insurance coverage on your home, but I found out there's if you didn't know this, I'll share this tidbit with you. So this is lesson number 1. There's 3 or 4 different types of water damage that can happen in your house. And insurance usually only covers one of them. And that's what I did, which is this accidental stuff. But there's something called water backup. There's water that can enter your house from outside. There's water that can back up through drains. There's sump pumps. They're usually not covered. So call your insurance agent, and my insurance agent and I have talked about this, but usually it's not expensive to add these little riders, but a lot of times insurance agents don't add them. So water, thank God. So my initial thought, I'll tell you guys this, my initial thought when I was praying about it that morning, so the damage has ensued. Nobody's been over the house yet to evaluate the damage. And my initial thought was, man, this is bad. Knowing that things can always be worse, I think my first thought was, okay, what would have been worse? And my dad was a fireman, so my first thought was, at least it wasn't fire. We were all sleeping, and fire would have been worse. Fire, most people don't get harmed by water flowing through their house while they're sleeping. And so it damaged a lot of stuff, but in the end, it's just stuff. And my family was all safe, so I was grateful for that. So water, But electricity, fire, those can be dangerous. So I was really initially just grateful that it wasn't fire. That was my, kind of my first thought in that. I had a patient one time, they were going through like kind of post-COVID when businesses, some were struggling. And I actually still take care of this family. I've taken care of them for years. Their kids were 1 and 2 years old when I met them. They were just in my office the other day. Their kids are 17 and 15 years old. And I remember this mom and dad were both going through a time frame post-COVID where they were just struggling. They're both, I think, work in the mortgage industry, and their jobs, like, they were just not doing great. And they're going to take a break from care in our office. And one of our rules is when you go through a hard time, your family, and you've been with us for 10 years, like, if there's a financial constraint on your family and you've been with us for a long time, we're here for you. We're not going to let you disrupt your care because of that type of stress in your life. So I offered them that. I said, hey, I want to take care of you guys during this time, this season, because it's going to be a season. It's not going to be forever. And I remember the dad looked at me. It was kind of hard for him to accept. But I remember him looking at me and he said, well, at least it can't get any worse. And this might sound depressing, but it's not. I said, no. The phrase is, you're misquoting that. It's at least it's not any worse, because it can always get worse, unfortunately. Like, we had 4 or 5 rooms destroyed, water pouring through, but it could always be worse. Like, it could have gotten other rooms. It could have, like, things could always be worse. So if you're going through a tough time, whether it's your health or something like this, just, be grateful it's not worse, because it could always be worse. Nobody in my family was injured. I think that's the second lesson. So number 1, have good insurance, especially for water. Number 2, it could always be worse. And then I started thinking about this and, okay, where's the lesson? What am I going to take away from this situation? What am I going to bring to the office? What am I going to bring to my team? When we have team meeting on Tuesday, what is the thing I'm going to pull away from this that's going to move and motivate me? How am I going to take this and this life lesson that God has given me? How am I going to bring this to my patients, and what am I going to teach them? So I have 2 more in this area too. And the first one was, I walked into my practice 2 days later, and I was taking care of a pastor friend of mine who's been with me since 2013. So what is that? 12 years. I've been taking care of this family. I take care of him, his wife, both of his children. I take care of his mother-in-law, his father-in-law. I take care of his dad. I've taken care of his mom. And so this family is near and dear to my heart, and he's a pastor. And we kind of went down the road of, like, the enemy is always looking to seek, kill, and destroy. He's going around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And he's like, but God promises that he always works all things for good for those who love the Lord. And I stopped him and I just said, hey buddy, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this was the enemy. This was just me. I was being a bonehead, and I made a mistake. And I think sometimes, even as a believer, we get in the zone where we will sometimes hyper-spiritualize things. And listen, I'm a believer in God's in everything. Don't get me wrong. People will say to me, oh, it's such a God thing. And my initial response, anytime I hear that, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened the other day, it was such a God thing. My first initial response, like in my heart, what I feel when they say it's a God thing, I'm like, oh, you mean as opposed to everything else? All the non-God things? Like, everything's a God thing. If he's our creator, if he's our author and finisher of our faith, like, then everything's a God thing. So, you can take this to both ends of the spectrum. Like, oh, I had this interaction that it was such a God thing. I'm like, the fact that you woke up this morning was a God thing. Everything's a God thing. The bad things are God things. The good things are God things. But I don't think that I like taking it to the aspect of, like, God did it all. Or then people go, okay, like, God does the good things and then Satan does the bad things. And so I don't think that it's like either or, because I don't think that the enemy flooded my house. I think I made a bonehead decision. And then I was talking to my dad, and my dad goes, well, what do you think the lesson that God wanted to to teach you, and this is. And I'm like, I also don't subscribe to that. I don't think God was trying to teach me a lesson. I think I made a bonehead move. I don't think the enemy was trying to attack me. I don't think God was trying to teach me a lesson. But here's where I did find God. And I was talking to my dad about this. And I do think that God is in everything. So immediately I went, all right, I don't think God was trying to like teach me a lesson or punish me or whatever. And just the same way, if my kid makes a bonehead move, if my child does something, I'm not like, got you on that one, buddy. Now let me teach you the lesson. And I don't think that, somebody is out to get them. But I do think as a parent, my job is to ask my son, hey, buddy, you made a mistake. What's the lesson in this? Like, what's the lesson that you can learn in this? And the first lesson is shut off the water. Like, I should have just shut off the water. That's the initial lesson. But the other lesson, and this is where I was telling my pastor friend, I think the real lesson here is I'm a father of 3 kids and a husband to my wife. And I think the real lesson is when you go through something that's traumatic or challenging, they're watching. My kids are watching. How am I going to handle it? How am I going to handle the emotions? How am I going to handle the stress? I was driving my kids to school the next day. I'm in a carpool, and my son kept reaching over, and my 14-year-old kept reaching over and grabbing my arm and just putting his hand on my arm. And, I think he was just trying to like console me. I was being kind of quiet, and usually we're listening to music, I'm talking, whatever. And I think I was just being reflective. I wasn't like super upset, honestly, but I think I was just being quiet, and he perceived it as maybe I was overwhelmed. And what was really cool is that later that night, both my sons asked me the same question. One of them asked me, he asked me, he goes, Dad, why are you taking this so well? Like, you seem pretty calm in all this. And my initial answer was very superficial, was because we got good insurance, buddy. That, I hate paying for insurance, but we have good insurance, and it's going to take care of it. And my insurance agent is a patient of mine, and he's a good friend, and so I knew he's going to look out for me. But then I went deeper with him, and I said, hey, bud, you only get, and this is a lesson that Ashley's taught me over the years, and I don't know where she learned it, but she says it repetitively over the last years, is that you only get so many chances. You only get so many chances to display your character. We're all going to go through good times, and we're all going to go through bad times. And like my kids, if you win in a soccer game, there's an opportunity to gloat. There's an opportunity to over-celebrate. There's an opportunity to make the other team feel terrible. There's an opportunity to whatever. Or there's an opportunity to be a gracious winner. There's an opportunity to like go tell somebody on that other team, great game. I love watching like NFL football. I always love watching when a quarterback is playing, like Aaron Rodgers right now, or the Bengals. We have Joe Flacco, like guys who have played for other teams for their career. I always like those games when they're playing against the team they used to play for. And I like watching the interactions that happen when the coach that they used to play for, or the teammates they used to play for, or whatever, come up. And they're not always mic'd. You can't always hear what they say, but you can read their body language. You can see these. And more often than not, what you see is, regardless of who won or who lost, you'll see an exchange where there's respect and there's encouragement, and there's, even if it's one of them congratulating the other team, or if it's the other way, the winner is going up to the losing quarterback who used to play with them and just saying, hey man, like, you did great. You threw a bunch of passes. Like, you couldn't have changed that outcome. And so there's opportunities and all this. And I was thinking about this. There's also opportunities when we go through, the poor thing, the bad things, the things that are disruptive to our lives. We have opportunities. And for me, my son's watching, My other son's watching, my daughter's watching, my wife's there. How I react, how I respond. What's my behavior like? What's my attitude like? Is the house going to be in turmoil for a week, or are we going to laugh about it? You know what I mean? Because there's nothing we can do. And so I was telling my pastor friend this, like, I think the real opportunity, the God thing in this is, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to lean into faith? Am I going to, have the attributes that God would want me to display that are more like him? Or am I going to give in to my human nature and be angry and ticked off and kick the dog and whatever? I wouldn't really kick my dog, but am I going to proverbially kick my dog and be grumpy and angry for the next few days and yell at the insurance adjuster or do this or do that? And that was my big spiritual takeaway. And then my physical takeaway, my vitality, health, chiropractor, business owner, entrepreneur mindset went to this other place where I'm like, I started thinking about insurance, and I'm like, thank God for insurance. Thank God that I spend this money that I hope to never have to use. And I would have preferred to have gone through my life never having to use it. And best case scenario, I'm seemingly throwing away money and just paying hundreds of dollars. And basically what it is, it's gambling, it's hedging my bets. But in the event that something like this happened, the total is going to be an astronomical amount of money, or, for some people it might be an astronomical amount of money. For me, it's a lot of money, more than I would want to come up with right now. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, thank God for good insurance. And then I was like, you know what? Like, people have health insurance, and there are times where health insurance is valuable. And then my chiropractor brain went, okay, when is it valuable? And I started going, what would I use my health insurance for? And immediately I thought, like, my son broke his arm. And when he broke his arm, I think the bill probably would have ended up being a couple $1,000. And I think we paid a couple $100. And I was like, you know what? Like, that was helpful. That was really helpful. And the other thing was, it did change the outcome. Like, he went to the doctor, they set his arm, and he's not going to have a deformity. He's not going to have a messed up arm for the rest of his life. He can still play sports with that arm and do whatever. But then I started thinking about, like, that mindset. We take that trauma mindset and then we apply it to health, and we apply it to these other things. And I realized that we shouldn't call it insurance because it doesn't change the outcome per se in a lot of things. I think what it does give you is some assurance, ASSURANCE, not insurance, but assurance. I think there's an assurance that if something happens, you're going to be okay. But unfortunately, when it comes to the body, we're not a house that gets flooded and walls are destroyed and you just go tear out the walls and you put in new drywall. That's not how it works in our body. And our bodies are actually substantially different because inanimate objects can be replaced. Non-living things, it's just wallpaper, it's just paint, it's just 2x4s, it's just drywall. It can be replaced. But you're a living thing, and not everything in your body can be replaced. In fact, I would argue that nothing in your body can really truly be replaced. Even if you had a heart attack and they put a pig heart in you, a pig heart's not a human heart. And it's not your heart. It's not the one your body created. And so in our body, everything's irreplaceable from the outside in. But what's beautiful is our bodies are actually being replaced and rebuilt every single day. That everything that's not replaceable, you can't cut out an organ and put in another organ and expect it to be the same. Even if it's, a blood match, even if it's whatever, like, it'll work for a while, but it's not the same. But here's the cool thing is, because of the intelligence that God's placed inside your body is actually reproducing every cell every day. That your skin is new every day. You got a whole new layer growing, you're sloughing it off. That's what most of the dust in your house is. That you're replacing your skin cells every day. You're replacing your lung cells with every month. You're replacing heart cells every few weeks to every month. You're replacing, nerve tissue regenerates and regrows. We didn't used to believe that. We thought, like, your nerves were your nerves. now we know, like, not only is your nerve tissue regenerative, it's highly regenerative. It's one of the most regenerative tissues in your body. That every other cell started from nerve cells, the way that you were developed, through the embryology. I was going to say etymology, but embryologically, you started off first as nerve tissue, which is pretty cool. And then the nerves regrew everything. My wife, the other day, I damaged some tissue in my knee, and her question was, it was a ligament. Ligaments don't heal really well. They don't have a lot of blood supply, whatever. She goes, can your body repair that? It was like a legitimate question she asked me. Can your body repair a damaged ligament? And I said, my body made that ligament. Like, my brain made that ligament. I started off when two cells came together. The first thing that grew was my brain. It's called your notochord when you're in embryology. And then it turns into your brain and spinal cord. And then your brain and spinal cord start branching out. And literally it's all these connections. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you start growing tissue and bones and a heart and lungs and this and that. I'm like, my brain made that ligament. Do I question for a second whether my brain can repair that ligament? It already made it once. It can make it again. And that might go against, like, science, but here's what I know is my friend tore his Achilles tendon, and 20 years ago, if you tore your Achilles tendon, it's surgery. They go in and they stitch it back together. He went to a doctor and they said, you're an athlete, you're active, it's going to heal and repair. We're not going to do surgery on it. And a fully detached Achilles tendon, not only to fully heal, but now he runs marathons, he exercises on it, and it's doing great. And then I had a patient come in, they tore their Achilles. He's a brewery owner, and I can't remember exactly how he tore it, but he heard the pop and he went in, and the doctor said, you're 50 years old, you're active, you're going to do what I tell you to do, right? Yeah, we're not going to repair it. Just let it heal, immobilize it, and then you're going to do PT and it's going to heal. And that was unheard of years ago. So right now they'll tell you, like, ligaments, your meniscus, ligaments, they don't heal really well. They don't heal well, but that doesn't mean they don't heal. And my question is, okay, how do we get it healing better? And listen, there is a time and a place for surgery. My son's broken arm didn't require surgery, but the bones were bent and they put them back straight and, set the bones, and they heal better when they're set. Surgically, if it's really bad and it's splintered and all that, yeah, they can go in, they can graft some tissue in, they can put a piece of metal in, and you're going to heal better. But when it comes to, like, these other things, we start talking about things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, cancer. It's not so mechanistic. It's not your blood pressure is high, let's lower it. And so I started going down this mindset. We were writing an email the other day, and we were typing out this email, and one of the things was, it's not luck, it's law. It's not luck, it's law. And our health, like, there's bonehead moves. There's bad luck. I'm not a believer in luck per se, but I believe there's bad luck. There's accidents. There's happenstance. There's things that just happen. And when those things happen, nobody's necessarily, like, responsible or whatever. Like, sometimes crap just happens. But then there are things that we actually have control over. So, like, high blood pressure, for instance, there are laws in your body that are at work right now that govern your blood pressure. And then there are rules that we follow when it comes to blood pressure, but rules aren't laws. Rules are man-made. Laws come from God. And, like, the rule on blood pressure is your blood pressure is supposed to be 120/80. That's the rule. And if you do some research and figure out where that rule was established, it was because a student in a collegiate atmosphere in medical school asked one day, what is homeostasis when it comes to blood pressure? What should blood pressure be? And the professor, knowing that there wasn't an established metric for this, said, that's a really good question. And he said, here's what we're going to do. There's, 30, 60 people in the room. I don't know. They said, let's all take our blood pressure and find out what the average is. Now, some of those people in that room might work out and they're healthy. Some people might be overweight. Some people eat terrible. Some people eat good. Some people are subluxated. Some people aren't. Some people are maybe more genetically inclined towards something, very few, but Most of them aren't. There's all these different things, but they just said, let's just take everybody's blood pressure and the average, and then they came up with 120 over 80, and that's where we got our number. And so your blood pressure is supposed to be 120 over 80 because that was the average of X amount of people in a room in a class in a medical school one day back in the mid 1900s, early 1900s. And so that's a rule, but it's not a law. The law when it comes to blood pressure is your body's intelligent and your blood pressure right now is exactly what it should be for right now. Why? Because your brain and your nervous system and your innate intelligence are causing your blood pressure to be there. Now, I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm saying it's right for right now. What do I mean by that? I mean, if your blood pressure is 180 over 110, super dangerous, it's still right because the blood pressure isn't the problem. The blood pressure is a reaction to a problem. So the question is not the condition of the blood pressure, but what's the cause? Why is it high? I'll give an example. What if your blood, our blood is supposed to be at a certain pH? So I have water going through these pipes. What if the water going through my pipes wasn't water? What if it was acid? It's going to corrode and eat my pipes, break them apart, and eventually I'm going to have water everywhere like we currently do in the house. But what if your blood was like that? What if your blood pH, your body is working hard to maintain your blood pH, but what if you're drinking 3, 4, 5 Coca-Colas a day and eating sugar and there's all this acidity that's making its way in your body? Your body's trying to regulate it, but it can't control it. And that acidity ends up affecting your blood, so your blood pH is now in a more acidic environment. It's starting to create inflammation, and it's damaging your blood vessels, and it's creating all this atherosclerosis. And then what happens is you can actually start creating micro trauma and bleeding. Your body tries to respond through something called von Willebrand's factor, where it's trying to clog up these holes, but you can actually do so much damage that you actually start creating bleeding internally in these arteries. Like you hear about it when it comes to things like aspirin, acetaminophen. You can take acetaminophen, you can actually start creating bleeding in the gut. So now you're bleeding, and all this bleeding, you're losing blood. So what do you think losing blood outside of a closed system of blood vessels does to your blood pressure, right? So you have this closed system, you got about 5 liters of blood going through your body, and you're losing blood. So if that's your car and you're losing oil, what happens? The oil pressure starts going down. You got to put oil back in. Now, you can keep adding oil in, but unfortunately in our bodies, the goal is not to keep adding blood back in, especially other people's blood. You want to have your own blood in you. And so in this situation, your blood pressure naturally in that situation is going to go down. And as it's going down, your body will overcompensate, and so you'll start pumping harder to increase pressure so that the pressure goes back up. And as the pressure goes back up, a lot of times you'll overcompensate, and now not only are you losing blood, but in order to maintain your blood pressure, your heart's having to pump harder and maybe even faster, so your heart rate and the contractions on your heart will go up. So now we have 2 or 3 problems developing from another problem, and none of them had anything to do with your heart. They had everything to do with potentially your diet or whether you're taking aspirin. And now we're creating things that will lead eventually to heart disease. And your pressure is high, but your pressure is high because your body's trying to overcompensate for something else. So is the problem the high blood pressure, or is the problem the initial cause? And so when I say your blood pressure is exactly what it's supposed to be, regardless of whether it's high or low, I mean it's exactly what it's supposed to be for that moment, given what your body's trying to adapt to. Now, as a chiropractor, what we do is we say, hey, let's look through the lens of nature. Where's the cause? How can we either, A, support our body, give it what it needs, remove what it doesn't, and support our body? So we look through the lens of, all right, if it's your diet, let's get your diet under control so that your gut can heal. Let's get off the acetaminophen so your stomach can heal. And if the healing happens and the bleeding stops, then what will happen is naturally your blood pressure will start to come down, the heart will start to function normally again, and that's getting to the cause. And what I love about chiropractic is chiropractic was defined as a philosophy, science, and art of things natural. What do we mean by things natural? We mean looking at nature, looking at the cause. We're not mechanistic, we're vitalistic. You're not drywall and studs that need to get replaced because you got flood damage. You're a living thing. And it's not as simple as adding a drug or taking out an organ. It's about working with the system and being a living human being. What does that mean? There's 5 key areas you gotta really work at. The first one is what we started off this podcast with is your mindset. Mindset matters more than anything because it's where we have to start from. Do you have a mindset of healthy or a mindset of sickness? And what I mean by that is anytime something happens, are you going to heal? Is it already made up in your mind? Dr. Seuss said, for a mind maker upper must make up his mind. So is your mind already made up that you're going to heal no matter what happens? I injured my knee. I'm like, I'm going to heal. Or is your mindset a mindset of sickness? Oh no, I'm broken now. I need to go to the doctor to get fixed. Are you going to be proactive? Are you going to do things in your life to be healthy and avoid the damage that happens just from life and stress? Or are you going to be reactive? Are you going to pretty much live how you want and ignore things that could contribute to your health? And then when things go wrong, now you got to play catch up. Those are the things that I challenge my patients to think about when it comes to mindset. And the second thing we do right after mindset, because your mind isn't your brain. Your brain might be the vehicle, but there's a whole science called noetics that even believes that your mind and our consciousness actually isn't in our brain, that our spirit and our consciousness is not necessarily just in our bodies, that your brain then is the vehicle for the energy of the mind to be delivered, and it's like a generator, it's a receiver, it's a transmitter, that our brain is like a computer that's designed to receive, send, transmit, and generate power. And so this power generator then starts sending signals, and those signals go through your brainstem, through your spinal cord, through your nerves, out to every cell tissue in your body. And this is why chiropractic is number 2. So mindset number 1, chiropractic number 2. Why chiropractic? Because the spinal column is like armor around your nervous system, protecting your most vital and your most important thing that you have in your body outside of your spirit, which is your nervous system. And when your nervous system's healthy, you have a foundation, and a good foundation to set you up for lifelong health. And then we start looking at nutrition. What are you putting in? Because you are what you put in your body. If you put good stuff in, that's nutrition, that's life-giving. There's not good food, bad food. There's just food. Food is good. Food is life-giving. Food is life-sustaining. Bad food, that's called toxins. It's not food. Food gives life. Toxins bring death. So when you're like, how's your nutrition been lately? And people are like, so-so. Like 50-50, 60-40. They're like, 60-40. So 60 good, 40 bad. What you're telling me is 60% of what you put in your mouth is life-giving, 40% of it is life-taking. And if we think about it through that concept, what we put in our bodies matters. So is it food or is it toxins? Toxins can also come through other areas. You can breathe them in. You can put them on your skin. My daughter and I use an app called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. We were going through Sephora the other day, and we were scanning makeup. And women, this is where you got to lean in tight. I know I'm going from preaching to meddling right now, but you put stuff on your skin every day, makeup. Grab the app Yuka, scan all your makeup. It's going to give you a scale of 1 to 100. Anything above like 90 is considered non-toxic. Anything below that, it's going to give you ratings. You'd be blown away. Lip gloss. Lip gloss is a real big one. We couldn't find one single healthy. We scanned 80 different lip glosses. We couldn't find one that had a score above like 36. 0 meaning death. 36 is not good. If these were grades, 36, like that's an F, right? We could not find a single lip gloss in Sephora, scanning 80 of them, that had a score higher than like 36. When it comes to other makeups, you'd be blown away. So this is crazy, but toxicity is the other side of this. So food, what are we putting in? What are we putting on? And then the last one is, how are you using your body? Supply and demand. Sometimes people are putting all the right food in, but they're not moving. They're not sweating. They're not putting demand on their bodies. They're losing muscle every year as they age. They're gaining body fat every year as they age. Their body composition, that they're becoming, it's like a car. Like the day you buy your car is the best it'll ever be, potentially, unless you fully restore it. But you're not a car. The day that you were born isn't the best you'll ever be. You haven't developed your immune system yet. You don't have strong muscles yet. You don't have strong bones yet when you're born. The beautiful thing about being alive is the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So are we using our bodies? And that's the last part, is what are we using them for? What are we using our bodies for? What are we using our brains for? What are you using your mind for? What are we using our trials and tribulations, like stories like this? I had a choice to make. Am I gonna give in, or am I gonna use it for good? So I hope this podcast and the lesson of just, going through a trial. Thank God it's not a health trial. I'm glad it was just a house. I'm glad it was just walls. I'm glad it was just drywall and flooring, because one day when I pass, I'm not gonna think, man, I wish I had a nicer house. Never going to think that. I'm going to think, man, maybe I wish I would have taken better care of my body. I wish I had a couple more years with the kids. I wish I taught my kids how to take better care of their health. Those are the things. Health is your biggest asset, because it's the one that we're all going to eventually lose. In fact, I would say it's not your biggest asset. Your relationship with God's your biggest asset. But then after that, it's how do you use it? And your body's the vehicle by which we have in this life to use it. Money, those are just tokens. Those are time tokens. How you spend your time, you earn tokens. Some people earn more than others. Money is not the most important thing. Things, my wife always says people are more important than things. It's a lesson she's taught me over the years. I'd get frustrated about something, something getting broken or whatever. She's like, hey, watch how you talk to the kids. People are more important than things. It's a huge life lesson, but your health is the one thing that you have outside your relationship with God that determines how you move through your life, how you feel through your life, the expression of it. Some people wake up every day and their battery is functioning at like 60, 70%. They don't even know it. They think they're at 100. And they just think like, man, I work really hard and I'm exhausted every day. But if their health, what if that battery is functioning at 100%, even if they didn't know that other 40% existed, if they were doing these other things and there was a world outside of, going to McDonald's every day and never getting a chiropractic adjustment in their whole life. And maybe they've never been taught some of these things. They don't exercise and they're physical with their bodies. They go to work and they come home beat up and they just keep rinse, wash, repeat. And they do this day in and day out. But what if there was this other life outside of that and they could experience that? Like, wait a minute, I can wake up with like energy and vitality every morning. I have 40% more energy, 40% more health, 40% more function. Oh my gosh, if I came home, I'd build a second business, or we'd have another kid, or I'd coach soccer for my kids, or I'd do this, or I'd do that. And that's what I want to challenge you guys and call you into is, where's that step you can take in your health when it comes to those 5 essentials, mindset, chiropractic care, nutrition, toxicity, and exercise. Where's the one you need to focus on? And I'll tell you, in my opinion, they're in that order, but some of you guys are doing 1 or 2 of them. And so the most important one is whatever one you're not doing, specifically in that order. So if you're like, dude, my mindset, I'm listening to you, Dr. Ryan, you're crushing my mindset right now. If my house flooded, I would be in turmoil. I'd be yelling at the kids, kicking the dog. You got to work on your mindset. You got to work on your spirituality. You got to work on your faith. You got to work on how you react. And you got to talking to God. So for me, it's talking to God and talking to my spouse. Those are the 2 big ones for me. Who I surround myself with, what I listen to. If you're listening to people that complain all day long, you're not talking to God, like your mindset's not going to get right. Number 2, chiropractic. I remember when the house flooded, the first thing I thought was I need to go get adjusted. If I want my mind, my brain, my spirit, if I want everything right, I need to get my head right, my mind right, but I also need the physical expression of my thoughts through my body. I need to make sure that my nervous system is firing well, because you guys all know stress can kill. Stress will suppress your immune system. Stress will create dysfunction. And so I want to make sure that the physical and emotional stress I was under, I want to have a clear nervous system. I remember also that day, it was like, what am I going to eat today? I'm under stress. If I eat the wrong things today, it's just going to add to the issues. If you guys have ever eaten a meal, eating something like guilty food, a guilty pleasure, something terrible that you shouldn't eat. Mine used to be chicken wings, and I could go and like mow down 30 wings at Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that. That's not gonna add to my vitality for the day. I'm already under distress. I want to go home. I want to be my best for the kids as our house is getting torn apart, and I want to put stuff in my body that's going to fuel that. And then after that is like, am I adding toxicity? Is there anything toxic I'm adding to my life right now that I could cut out? And then the last one was, I remember getting home and thinking, tomorrow morning when I wake up, first thing I need to do is grab that kettlebell, start swinging it, and take out my frustration on the heavy bag, punch it a little bit, swing the kettlebell, maybe run, whatever it is you like to do, how you like to move. The thing is, you have to move. You have to move. I mean, you don't have to. You have a choice, but you do have to if you want to be your best and have the most vitality. And at the end of your life, look back and go, man, it was a good run. I had the energy till the end. I didn't sit in a hospital or a wheelchair for the last 20 years. I didn't kick the dog. I loved on the kids. I coached the sports. I had my health, and I went to bed on my last night, and I didn't wake up and have no regrets. So I just want to share where my head's at in this life lesson with you guys, and I hope this helps you out through this week.